Welcome everybody to the Musha Shugyo podcast and web series. We are joined today by Sensei Steve Lowe of the Koryu Kyudokan. Anybody that's seen any of the material that I'll put out will obviously be familiar with some of the stuff that Sensei Steve's done. So welcome to the cast and that, Sensei. As we get started, just give us a little bit of information about yourself and your history and everything that sort of brought you to where you are now.
Okay, well, firstly, hi. You got me here. I'm actually at the dojo. We've just finished the instructor's course this morning, and so that's why I'm doing it from here. Right, so my history. So I started when I was 8 years old, and I had, it's kind of like a Mr. Miyagi thing for me. So brought up on a relatively rough country estate and went to relatively rough schools. So I was really, I was bullied as a kid, really bad. And I had a friend, a Chinese friend actually, who seemed to be able to swap them off like flies. You know, it wasn't a problem for him. Long story short, turns out his dad was teaching him Kung Fu. So I begged and begged and begged, and then I ended up, just before my 9th birthday, his dad said, yeah, okay, you can come. And I spent the next 6 years, 7 years, maybe a bit longer, virtually daily, him learning us how to protect ourselves and getting stronger. That turned out to be, I didn't know it at the time, but that turned out to be Southern Praying Mantis Kung Fu. Okay. I had no clue that it was this. It was just, you know, fighting, learning how to, you know, if they do this, you do this, but also strength, you know, strengthening exercise. There was no forms and things like this. It was just training and then basically self-protection stuff. And then I went from being a bullied kid to ending up in high school, the kid you went to if you was in the shit. I took my revenge on the bullies. That kind of happened quite quickly. But then I ended up the kid in the school that you go to if you needed a bit of extra help, if you will. And then at 15 years old, just before my 16th birthday, they emigrated to California actually. His uncle had died and he was the next successor in line to take over the dojo. So they emigrated to California to do that. Left me to do what every other kid's ever done who started. You just go to the local martial arts club that's near your house. That turned out to be a Shotokan Dojo for me. So I went to there, and after a very, very hard transitioning period, where I nearly got kicked out a few times because of the way that I fought compared to the way they fought. And I did that for quite a few years. And then at 19 years old, I got invited to go with a friend who I was training with as well. He was doing jiu-jitsu actually, to go and not kind of work on the doors, but come and join us. He was a friend, you know. And I went with him at 19, just before, about 19, 20 to 21, realised that the Shotokan that I'd done for the last X amount of years had undone my ability to protect myself. So it was kind of then a very, very rude awakening, and I had to then undo what damage I'd done and take it back to what I wanted from it, basically to help protect myself. And then I kind of went through, I mean, I've always cross-trained all my life. Dojos all over the country, all over the UK. I spent a time as well in my early 20s where I used to do shop fitting over the JJB Sports.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that used to take me all over the country. So everywhere we went to do a shop, I was training. You know, it was like 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks, whatever job there was. So I kind of doing a hell of a lot of cross training, but I could never find what I wanted. You know, I ideally wanted to learn purely to protect myself and develop myself. So because I couldn't find it, that's why I started teaching. So I started a dojo purely with the intention of getting a few more lads together who wanted what I want, and develop that way. That's when I found out through the likes of Hanchi McCarthy that karate has got these things in them. It's, you know, it's all in the kata, it's all in the old karate, but you've got to source it, you've got to find it. So from then right through till now, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to find out the original purpose of, well, not karate, pre-karate really, where the martial arts of Okinawa basically was about learning how to protect yourself. Everything from mindset to skill set to power generation, you name it, everything. And I'm still doing that now. And now I'm 43 years in, something like that. That's where we're up to now.
That's a good stint, that is, mate.
Oh, I know.
So
I mean, I think that's. Oh, go on.
Go on, mate.
Go on, Craig. I was going to say it's quite a rarity, you know, for your martial arts journey to start out with you know, kung fu, you know, and especially the style you discussed. What did you say it was? Southern Mantis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, southern praying mantis. Yeah. It turned into, yeah.
Flipping hell. I mean, I wouldn't even know where to start to find any legitimate kung fu. I mean, you see a few schools about, but it's nothing really legit and nothing really specific of that. So you must have been quite humble to do, you know, to have that experience.
It was and it wasn't, to be honest. I mean, it was kind of like you see the old movies, right? So I used to go to his house every day after school and every day at the weekends, and it was just brutality. You know, he used to put us in postures and training, and you know, and then he'd say, you know, right, I'm going to attack you with this, do this, and if you got it wrong, you got it. It's kind of like fast forward 30 odd years, and I was exactly the same with Sensei Caldwell. He used to hit me as well.
So deep down, you've found a niche for masochism through learning. So with your journey as it stands at present, obviously both me and James, we've sort of had the opportunity to visit your dojo and train with your students a couple of times now. Where you are now, is there anything sort of that's really stuck out in terms of sort of like light bulb moments, real eye openers in your learning processes that sort of contradicts that Shotokan training that was built into you?
I've been on about this morning. So what I tried to do, because I'd done Shotokan for quite a considerable amount of time, but my Shotokan was still combat based. We'd never done any sporting side really. So, but what I was trying to do was I was trying to make Shotokan fit what I wanted from it. So I was kind of like, I was trying to make like a square peg fit into a round hole, and it wouldn't work. I couldn't get from Shotokan the kind of reality, because I've had quite a lot of experience in the reality side of it. I couldn't make the Shotokan fit that remit, if you will.
Yeah. So
I had to, like, physically, we had to sit down, me and the dojo senpai Alan, and this was way before the Koryu Kyudokan was formed. And we said, Luke, you know, we had a private dojo at the time, and I said, we need to change. And I actually said to him, I need to change everything. And my initial discussion was, Luke, should I scrap everything? Let me learn the Wechiru katas, which I have a very, I think the Wechiru kata are extremely, you don't need no imagination with them. They're straight to the bone. That's what they're about. And Alan, in his wisdom, said to me, no, it's okay. What we'll do, just change what we do, right? And stupidly, I said, okay, I'll do that. You know, Fast forward now, 30 years on, and I'm still like, Jesus. You know, I'm trying to find out. So what I've done is, what I did was, so what we had 5 basic heian kata or pinan kata, yeah. And what I did with them initially was I dissected them. I took them all apart, and the first thing I did was I took them back to were the when you look at the original applications of them. I don't mean karate against karate. I mean looking at like non-consensual habitual acts of violence. So, you know, one person against another person, or 2 or whatever. So when you look at the true applications of them, so for example, if you go to the kata Chatanyara Kushanku, you can see the lower katas in them, but with the wrong applications. So what I did was I kind of found where the applications should be, then put them back together with those applications in mind, and then brought the principles in. So the kata, our first 5 kata now, I have changed them. They still follow the Enbusan-ish of the 5 heian katas, but the principles and applications are all from Aragaki Seizan, Kushanku, Wanshu, this kind of thing. So it changed, because those first 5 katas, even from their origin, from when Atosu and Sato developed them, they were meant to be a training module to teach you a stepping stone in. So that's what I did with those. And then, so those 5 kata can change as often as I want them to, because they're a mnemonic training module, if you will. They're meant to teach. So they are what they are, you know. So for example, today on the instructor's course, we're going through Pasai, Matsumuna Pasai. We've done half of it in 4 hours. We're going to do the other half in a few weeks. When I teach it on the instructor's course, I do it as a training module. When we cover it in the dojo, 1 month it might be power generation. The following month, I might look at it from a flow, trying to instill flow values to it. So that's what kata are meant to be. They're meant to be a training module. So each time you visit them, the principles stay the same, but everything else should change. Nothing should be set in stone at all. This thing of in the Japanese Koryu kata word, do you dare change them? In Japan, yes, it is this, because you stick into a family way or a governing bodies way. But you go to Okinawa, right? And it's, you know, when we went to Amami Shima, Hashi Sensei, every time he did a kata, he'd say, but this is not the way you'll get it in Okinawa. This is our way. Because we want this from it. So we want that from it. And I'm like, do you know what? He's right. You know, it doesn't, I can get from them what I want from my students or for my own study. So that was a big eye opener for me, that I didn't need to stick to what the norm is, because it's my journey. It's no one else's journey. And because it's like, you know this saying, think outside the box. Right. Well, I stamped all over the box. I set it on fire, burned it. I smashed it up. You know, and I got rid of the whole premise of thinking about governing bodies, curriculum, syllabuses, things like this. It's not. It's about my journey that I share with my students, and I teach them what I believe they need, not what they want. A thing that I always say in here is that I teach individuals in a class environment, because no 2 people in this dojo are the same. So for example, I don't stand at the front of the class barking out orders and they all copy each other. It's not like that, right? In Japan, when I went to Japan, yes, that's exactly what it's like. You go to Okinawa, and certainly on the islands, it's nothing like that. You know, you go in the dojo, and, you know, when we went, we started steaming Hashi Sensei, and Hashi Sensei, he gave a bit of breakfast, and he go, hi, dojo. We go, hi, Sensei, walk to the dojo, and then we just do whatever. He might walk in and pick a bow, he might pick a bow up and go, oh no, let me show you this, do some wechiru, do some bow, do some tonfa, whatever. it wasn't set in stone. It's what he felt we needed that particular day. And that was a massive eye-opener for me. You don't need to do what others want you to do. Do whatever the fuck you want to do. Depends on what you want from it, doesn't it?
So with that experience then in Okinawa, and that difference between that sort of Japanese approach, so you've sort of got obviously what most people now would consider a much more relaxed teaching style than you're going to see in a like traditional. I hate using that word, dojo.
Yeah.
How do you find that then prepares
Yeah.
people better for the realities of violence? What is it about that approach that can give people that, you know, that better edge?
Well, even from a mindset perspective, right? So when the guys come in the dojo, they never know what's going to happen. Even if I said to them, right, we have like a group forum on WhatsApp and things like that, right? So if I said to them, right, like for example, the instructor's course this morning, they knew we was doing Pasai, right? But they don't know what we're going to do in Pasai. They haven't a clue what we're going to do. There's so much, you know. For example, the last time we studied Kushanku, for example, we spent a month on it, and we didn't even do half the kata. Right? They don't know what's going to happen. You know, I don't know about you, but last time I had a real confrontation, the guy didn't say to me, "I'm going to throw a hook at your head, and if you don't miss that, I'm going to book you. And then if that hits you, I'm going to do this." No, you've got to think on your feet. You know, you deal with whatever's in front of you. So right off the bat, when the guys walk in, they haven't a clue what's going to be, what they want me to do that day. Not got a clue. And that's the way it should be. One, it puts a slight fear factor into them, what they're walking into. And two, when we are doing it, they've got to think on the feet. So right, even though we're not real, we're not battering each other, the mindset is they haven't a clue what's going to happen. When they walk on this dojo floor, they've not got a clue. So that's a mindset right off the bat. When they walk in, they don't know. Depends what mood I'm in.
Wow. So going on to more your later years, Sensei. You mentioned Sensei Caldwell. How did you meet Sensei Caldwell? How did that all come about?
Right. So it was right when I very, very first got onto Facebook, actually, and he was doing a seminar called The Old Ways, and he wanted to get, he was at the latter end of his life, so he wanted to kind of, before he passed, he wanted to pass on old karate. You know, and by that I mean kind of violence related, dealing with violence. So he got together this seminar called The Old Ways, and so I messaged him on Facebook and said, I'd like to come to attend the seminar. And he never answered me for weeks, and I mean weeks, right? So then it was about 2 or 3 weeks later, and I got a message back saying, yeah, please come along and bring some of your students. Now, looking back, it didn't click at the time, but I thought to myself later on, how does he know I've got students? I didn't say, can I bring me and my students? I just said, can I come? It didn't click at the time. Years later, when I asked him about it, he said he'd done like a private detective thing on me. He'd sourced my background and everything and looked who I was, because he didn't know who I was. So he kind of done the background checks with me and then invited me to come. So I met him at The Old Ways, and he was like, do you ever see any pictures of us when we was there? You'd think we'd been together a long time, because he was all over me, putting his arms around me. Come on, son, come with me, do this, do that. And he's watching me all the time on the seminar. So we did the seminar, and then I also met Sensei Ray Bates, who became one of my jiu-jitsu instructors. And I kind of was training him with Ray. And then Sensei Ray rang me up and said, Sensei Caldwell, what's your number? Do you mind if I give it to him? Now, everybody knows Sensei Caldwell's reputation, right? In his younger days, who he was and what he did. So I'm like, shit, what's he want my number for? So he said, I don't know. He wants your number. Is it okay? I said, yeah, okay, go on then. So anyway, it wasn't even half an hour later, he rang me. And he said to me, all right, son. I said, yeah. He said, I need you to come to my house. And I'm thinking, oh my God, what? And he said, I want you to come and look at some work for me. So I'm like, he really wants me to do a job for him. That'll be okay. So I went to his house and the job never got done. It was a ploy to get me there. So he was kind of, so what, in a very, very long story short, he was coming to the end of his life and he wanted someone to pass forward his more advanced teachings and as then the World Kokan Federation and the Kazuna. So we went from like I can't say a chance meeting, it was an arranged meeting through a seminar. Fast forward maybe a year from that, and I've been going to his house for a few chats and things like this, as you did. And then he said to me, right, we'll go and walk the dog. He used to have this massive Akita. So he goes and walks the dog. I'll never forget it. And he took me to, you remember the pictures? I don't know if you guys have seen them, of when the JKA went to Liverpool, in Oida and people like this. And he was training in the park and that. Remember those pictures?
Yeah.
So that's near Sensei's house. So he said, come on, I'll take you to this famous park where all the Japanese was and blah, blah, blah. So we goes there and then we sits down with the dog and he said to me, so we've been speaking of quite a bit, and he said to me, what do you do? What's your karate for? And I said, well, ideally I wanted to protect me. And by this time I'd done door work, security work, bodyguard, naughty stuff, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. And I said, well, he said, do you think what you're doing does that? And I said, I'd like to think so, yeah. So he said, so do you think your training fits that purpose? And I went, yeah, I think so. And he said, right, well, you can start with me then. When we get back, we're starting. That was it. That was how we became a student. So he kind of, I always say this, so on that meeting when he took me with the dog, if I would have said to him, my karate's like part of my life and it's just something I do, not for self-protection, I think probably I wouldn't have seen him again because he wouldn't have been the correct person for me. I once had a conversation with him and he said to me, have you got any regrets? And I said to him, yeah, I have actually. I said, I wish I would have met you when I was in my 20s. And his answer was, no, I would have ruined you. I would have, you would be psychotic now. I would have ruined you. Now's the right time. I've got like 30 odd years in front of me, behind me, should I say. And I've got the right mindset and the skill set for him to carry me a little bit more. He would have had me in my 20s, in his words, he would have ruined me. And I thought, okay, fair enough. He just ruined me there and then instead.
So the training you did with Sensei Caldwell, was that a different sort of level of intensity that you worked towards? Was there a lot more involved on the side of dealing with the mental and the physical aspects of violence compared to what you'd already done previously?
Right. So yeah, it's a good question now. So I only knew Sensei Caldwell the last 6 years of his life, right? So when I met him, physically he couldn't do much. He had like half a heart and things like this. He couldn't do much, and it wasn't about that. So initially, what he'd do is he'd say to me, right, it was all training was at his house, and then it critiqued me. So he'd ask me to do something, and he'd critique me. But then what I got from him more than anything, and from anybody I've ever known in my entire life, was mindset. His history, what he'd done with his martial arts, because he'd been everything from a pathfinder in the SAS, through to bodyguarding King Juan Carlos' son in Spain, through to debt collecting, door work, you name it, right? It's at the extreme level of violence. And it was from his experience that he, more than anything, he developed my mindset. I already had the mindset enough to be able to handle it, but he made me realise that there was different layers of the mindset in dealing with violence. And he's the one who put me on that path to make you understand there's a lot more going on than just being able to have a scrap. You know, all the psychological side, both, you know, before, after, during, you know, and on all levels on that. And he was the one more than anything. And then he'd give me like topics to kind of study. So he would like, say for example, the very last one that before he died, which was only 2 weeks before he passed, he said to me, we've been talking about loads of things, and he said, I need you to look up Shibumi. And I said, right, okay, Shibumi. He said, right, go away, and that's your next topic. So I would take, you know, a week or so, and then I'd put something together, and I'd send it to him. And I'll share with you what I put. And it was ironic because what Shibumi is all about being a good martial artist, really, and being a good person, and how you portray yourself as that. So, I put that poem on "If" by Rudyard Kipling.
Yeah.
You know, it's basically about that, about being a real person. And it's ironic that he did that 2 weeks before he passed. As though he knew he wasn't long. But that's, you know, the mindset and the study, all the study topics that he used to make me do was all about mindset. I already had the skill set. Do you know what I mean? He didn't teach me anything physically, which I didn't know. Very often I said to him, if we do something, I'll say, yeah, that's Gammaku, isn't it, Sensei? And he'd go, I don't know what you mean. I don't know. You do it. That's not up to me. My life's done. It's not. You've not come to me for that. You've come, you know. And I'd say, no. What about this? I don't. And he was really honest. He just said, I don't know. Tell me. Oh, he just said, I don't know. I'm not interested. Do this. I'm like, oh, okay. So he was very. He once said to me that he was a crap instructor, right? He said, not everybody can teach. That he said to me, I'm a crap instructor. He said, I'm a good sensei. I can teach you, but I'm not very good at teaching a class. Because he used to grab like one of his others, he used to have us all as sons. He used to say, you know, if you got accepted him, you became one of his sons. And one of his other sons is Sensei Alpha Lewis, who I'm meeting up with soon. And when we used to swap stories, me and Alpha, and he was one person to Alpha and another person to me. He was one person to Sensei Ray Bates and another person to me. He had more personalities than Dharma or whoever it is. I don't know. You know.
Then we were just talking about the what you consider the most traditional aspect of karate. Its key defining feature, which is kata. No matter which type of karate you look at, you will always find kata in some format. And obviously, we've all got our different backgrounds, our different kata that we'll have learned. So for the Koryu Kyudokan and what you do, Sensei, what is kata to you? What is it for? Why do you do it?
Right, good question. So when I initially went to a Shotokan dojo from doing, well, I was learning to protect myself, but it obviously became praying mantis. I'd never done any forms doing that. It was just training and then dealing with violence. And then I used to hate the kata because it was like, because I was taught it on an aesthetic level. So it was like, I used to say, oh, kata again, let's fight, can we not fight? And it got to a point where I used to detest it because the kata I was being taught was just for nothing other than performing it, you know? And even when the application was shown, it was just karate person against karate person, and it's wrong. So years and years and years later, when you start to look at the origin of what kata is, and I must give validation here to Hanshin McCarthy, because he's the one who's done all this legwork for us. You know, of course, I've done my own study beyond that, but he was the one who kind of put it there and said, "No, this is what kata is, and more importantly, what kata isn't." And it's kind of like, you've got to understand that kata is a mnemonic training module. It isn't like what was shoved down our throats in the 80s and 90s. One person in the front, one person behind, one person to your left, one person to your right, and you turn to the left and deal with this person, and this person attacks you when he's waiting, and when you turn around, he attacks you, and utter bollocks, right? So what kata actually is to teach you in the best principles, and then of those principles, so it's teaching you body mechanics, teaching you muscle mechanics, it's teaching you power generation, it's teaching you how to perform a technique correctly. When I first started doing kata, it was like, they used to say, you've got to imagine there's someone in front of you, you've got to imagine this, and that's utter bollocks. What you need to be working on is doing, let's say you're doing 3 punches. Then those 3 punches, you've got to be, your mindset is to be, your visualization is got to be, how do I do that to the best? So let's say, for example, you're working on Tokyo, which is like body mass delivery. So you might do 3 punches and then you think, right, I'm going to deliver mass in these. And then in another class, you might think, right, I'm trying to think about shock delivery. So I want to do shock delivery in that. And the kata teaches you those principles. It's not, you go to punch him, he steps away, you do another, he steps away, and you get him on the third and you ki. What utter bollocks that is, right? That is kind of like, that's okay. I'll hurt a lot of people's feelings here, but that, I don't give a shit. This is
Go for it.
That's okay to teach children, okay? As adults, as grown-ass men and women, certainly if your end goal is to protect yourself, the days of doing kata this way, punching fresh air, march up and down the dojo, they should be behind you. You need to progress from that into dealing with real non-consensual violence. So, and understand what part kata plays in that. It teaches you, yes, it's application-based, it's Oyo-based, but only when you take that into a 2-man fighting drill, right? So like every class we do, more or less every class, we'll do kata, go through it, and then we may do 2 moves from that kata, the whole 2-hour class. And what we'll do is, we will dissect it, and first of all, we'll say, right, let's see if it works on the most habitual act of violence, which is a right-handed strike to the left-hand side of my face. You look at any crime stats, every single year, that is the most reported crime. Right-handed strike to the left-hand side of the face. It was same 100 years ago, it's the same today. So we try to work it towards that. And by that, what I don't mean the other guy steps back into Gidan Brian and attacks you with an Onzuke. What I mean is you get some honey monster who's trying to take your head off. And I don't mean throws a punch this far off your head. I mean tries to clean you out. So we work it that way, and then we'll look at what it's trying to teach us. So if it's like, say, for example, it's, let's say the kata teaches, every kata teaches sen, movement towards them. Every single kata, if you think about every kata that you know, what's the first thing that you do after you look? Is you go towards the opponent, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the very core principle of every single kata is moving towards the aggressor. But yeah, I can only go off from what I was taught. When we do 5-step, 1-step, we generally move away. We don't go in and smash them up. But yeah, the kata does this. Yeah. So it's the main principle, the first principle is sen, taking the initiative, going in. So then we work from that. So I'll get people asking me, how can you spend a week on 3 moves from a kata? Because we're trying to cover every single eventuality or anything that could go that way, from 1 attack, from 2 attack, whatever. And we work it and drill it. And then we add what we class as gyakuwaza into it, where it's not worked. You've got to, they fight back. I had you was asking me before about what Sensei used to put into my mind.
Yeah.
And Sensei Koryu, this is. And we had a conversation once, and he said to me, do you know when you're imagining your fights, you've had, you have visualizations, we all do. I said, yeah. He said, do you ever lose? So I went, no, I don't lose. Why would I lose in my own imagination? He said, well, what will you do if it goes wrong? And I'm like, Christ, yeah. He said, you need to imagine, you need to visualize and work on what you do when it goes wrong. Not that they'll do that, you'll do this, you'll win. Hey, I won. No, it doesn't work like that. And I know it doesn't work like that. So he made me think, right, okay. And then years later, it's ironic that when I look at Hanshi McCarthy's work, and he mentions gyakuwaza, this reversal techniques where you need, it's in kata. A lot of kata have got inbuilt gyakuwaza if you know what you're looking for. And you need to work on so that, for example, we might started off with that right-handed strike as it. I end up, either on the deck or I mean a grapple situation. It's still got to work. It's more important for it to not work and me get out of that shit than for me to make it work straight off the bat, first go, and that's all I work on. So the way you look at kata as well is if you know, Sensei used to say you need to look at them with the right eyes, and Hanshi McCarthy said the same. When you've got the right eyes in your head and you realise what they are and what they're not, that's when you start to see, oh yeah, there is an inbuilt thing there. This is a bit of grappling. Why would I need to grapple when I'm striking someone? Because it's gone wrong. Because my shot has not worked, or he's been a bit quicker than me. So that's why I end up in a grappling situation. Not because I've decided to grapple him after the event. Well, you would never choose to grapple somebody you just hit. The grapple comes from you being in the shit. It's not worked. It's kind of like, so our tegumate work, our grapple work, is not how to grapple with someone. It's how to anti-grapple, how to get out of a grapple, get back to striking, get them on their ass, get back to me on top winning. If you're in a grapple situation, you're kind of on the back foot then. You'd never choose. It's kind of like, for example, 2D, like joint manipulation. You would never choose to grab someone's arm and try and bend it unless you've got to do it as a job. Like say like a security or something. Yeah. Right. You end up, you 2D comes from when someone's grabbed you or you've ended up in a kind of a tussle situation, you end up with a limb, you're gifted a limb for whatever reason. Maybe they've got you in the face and you grab hold of it, or it's an arm that's stuck out and you manage to get hold of it. That's where that comes from. So again, it's not about control. Again, in the Okinawan systems, in the old stuff, it wasn't about putting a lock on. It was about if you're gifted a limb in a violent confrontation, you snap the fuck. Sorry, I nearly swore then.
Nah, don't worry about language.
If you're gifted a limb in a violent confrontation, you don't try and put. Why would you try and put someone who's already affected by adrenaline, who's already numb to pain, who's already have gone, the shutters have come down, the blinkers are on. Why would you try and submit them with a lock? No. It wasn't ever about that. So it's about, if you get gifted a limb, you snap it. You try and end the fight by snapping a limb. Same if it goes to ground. So newaza was never, in karate sense, it was never meant that you fight on the ground. It was meant to fight from the ground and get your ass up. The techniques in Niwaza are about getting up off the ground, not fighting on the ground, okay? Because it's too dangerous to be on the ground. For example, like Nagiwaza. So Nagiwaza is not about, you're not trying to throw someone over your head with a hip throw. Sensei used to say that it's more about trips and rolls and pushes. And like, for example, today's study's been about Pasai, which is about dealing with bigger people. The throws in Pasai, you're making the bigger guy fall over his own ankle and knee and snap his own ankle and knee. you've seen Aaron, yeah? There's no way, no, to be truthful, I've done it. I once said that I can hip throw anybody. And so just purely for an experiment, I threw Aaron over my head. And I mean fully, legs over my head and everything. And he did. He landed on the dojo floor. All the pictures fell off the walls. Right? But I was gone. I was completely and utterly gone. You know when you pick something up too heavy and you start seeing stars and stuff. Yeah. I'd gone. There was, if he would have wanted to, he could have got up and destroyed me because I'd gone. But it's not meant to be that. So when you look at, for example, the throws that are in kata, when you turn around and you do the throws, you've got to look at them realistically. So when you take that to a two-man fighting drill, and then it becomes real and they don't want you to throw them, that's when you realise. Sensei used to call it nagna rather than nagiwaza. Because, like for example, this morning, we've been taking, it's like a cross ankle throw, where by you pulling on a particular limb, his own weight twists and he breaks his own knee and dislocates his own ankle before there's any chance. I don't bear his weight whatsoever. This is the true meaning of all these things. When you put it to a real violent confrontation, you've got to have that knowledge of what it's like, And I don't mean someone throwing a punch at your head or trying to throttle you. I mean someone who's trying to end you with a punch or a throttle. There's a major difference there. And I always say to them, say to my guys a lot this, you don't need experience in violence to be able to handle violence. But what you do need is the person teaching you has to have experience in violence. If that makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah. So for every soldier that's ever been to war, they've not been to war before, they've been trained to do it by people who have been to war, who know what they're talking about. So when they get there, they know what to do. The training is specific. They don't need to change anything. So the idea of the Koryu Kyudokan is through, unfortunately, or fortunately, depends, through my experiences in my life, I have geared my karate, my kata studies towards dealing with that with a realistic point of view. I'm not imagining it. I'm not YouTubing it. I'm not going off what somebody said in a book, what somebody said this, somebody's story about this. I will do it. It's kind of like, I won't teach knife defense. In everything I've been through in my life, I've never once somebody's tried to stab me with a blade. I have no experience in dealing with blades. I've only once, I got bottled in the arm once when I was working on the door, right? Just smashed and stuck it in my arm. But I didn't deal with it. I didn't even see it coming. It was in a crowded place. I just looked down. I felt a hit and I was bleeding. Dealt with it in other things, and that's one of the things I ended up in court for. But my realistic scenarios that we do in the dojo come from real world experience. So it's kind of, I get them ready for the eventuality if it happens to them through my experience, and then of course, and then through my knowledge. It's kind of like, probably one of the best people I know about dealing with violence is Lee Morrison. You know Lee Morrison, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah. Now, even though he's come through a karate background and martial arts background, he's not doing karate now, is it? You don't see him in a gi, you don't see him in a dojo.
No.
I don't have a training thing, and he's fantastic at what he does. His knowledge, his experience, you can see it in him. When them eyes flick, you know that experience is there. So that's his urban combatives. That's his, what's the word? That's his kind of mode of transport to transfer his things. And I went through the stage of thinking, well, do I just teach this and teach that? But then through other people's studies and then me going on the back of that, I thought, no, karate or T, before it became karate, I only use the word karate, to be honest, because it's what everybody knows. If I advertise the fact on the front at the door that we do up and down and tea, we'd have a dojo full of old ladies wanting coming in for scones, wouldn't we? Or scones when every party comes to your front. So I only use the term karate simply because everybody knows the term karate. But what we're doing in this dojo, really, and Gavin Malone Sensei says the kind of same, you know, it's not karate that we're doing, it's that meeting when they decided to take the name of karate and spread with it. Prior to that, there was no real name for it. You know, you could say it was part of the indigenous system of Okinawa, which is T or Todi or, you know, Ryukyun Kempo or Uchinade or whatever name you want to put to it. It was more about the individuals and the actual style then. So, but I found that through karate, I can use that, and well, I can use the kata to transfer the knowledge of how to deal with violence. Why? Because that's what the origin of the kata was. They were a training module to put forward training techniques. Train the body, train the punching, train the kicking, train the striking, train the throwing, train the breathing, train the power generation. And then when you have a knowledge of that, that's then when you can, it's kind of like this. So I'm a joiner, right? So my way of making a living is not a dojo. It never will be. I never wanted it to be. So I'm a joiner. So the first thing you do when you learn, we've got 2 apprentices at the minute. First thing I do is I'll give them a saw and say, right, cut this wood up. What for? Just to learn to use the saw. So they'll cut loads of wood up, and then I'll say, right, use this hammer, use this chisel, just, you know, put me a trench in that piece of wood. So they learn to use the tools and how to use the tools. And then I'll say to them, right, go and cut me a sheet of ply to this particular size. Now, if I am to show them how to use those tools, they can't profess them into a job. It's the same with kata. Kata is learning how to use the tools, develop the tools, put them all together, and then when you go to the job site, 2-man kata, fighting drills, scrapping, whichever way you want to do it, that's when you use the skills you've been taught through the kata, through the mnemonic process of learning this, how to do it. It's important to understand what kata is and what kata isn't. It's too many people. We was on about it this morning. You know, when we look at, for example, in Matsumura Pasai, I have brought in through Kushanku a corkscrew punch. Okay, Koshiborizuki, where it's a kind of a corkscrew into them, and it delivers a certain kind of shockwave. I think I must have hit one of you two with it.
Yeah, I've had it.
Yeah.
Craig's done it to me.
Yeah, but it is, isn't it? It's a fantastic tool, isn't it? It's you know, it's something, and that comes from kata. It shows you how to do it, but you've got to learn how to put it together, how to hit someone with it. So that's the best way to look at kata is think about you're learning. I always say it's kind of like tools and targets, right? So in the kata, we're learning about tools. Take it to a 2-man fighting drill, it becomes targets. So then, but you've got to have the tools to hit the targets with. And that's what you've got to understand what it is and what it isn't. If that answers your question in a roundabout way.
Yeah, I'd say probably more than answers it, to be honest. Yeah.
Oh, you know what I'm like? When I get started talking, I can't stop, especially on this subject.
No, he's fine. The other thing I'd like to ask you, Sensei, is obviously you've obviously now got the instructors program going. So where did this whole, you know, I'm gonna expand the Koryu Kyudokan way out there and, you know, try and spread your way across, you know, other avenues? Because, you know, we always thought you were quite reserved, and it's quite interesting to see now that you've got quite a few instructors. I'm not sure on the amount. Is it 5, 6, maybe a few more?
Yeah, 5.
Yeah.
Good question. A very good question. So first, so I've been asked this before, right? So people said to me, with the Koryu Kyudokan, are you trying to develop your own style? And I'm not, right? What the Koryu Kyudokan is a methodology and a vessel, if you will, of how to train. It's not a style, it's a way, it's a methodology of how to train. So I mentioned before about, so our first 5 kata are a living being, they're a living entity. They change all the time to suit what the direction of the whole class. So what I wanted is the way that karate world has gone, be it back dojos or people who are only interested in getting the coin, you know, they're not bothered what shit they're putting out there as long as they make the coin. And it's kind of a fight against that. It's kind of why we started to wear the black gi. The story of why we wear the black gi is kind of related back to the story. Hanshi Caesar Bukowski told me this, that in Okinawa, when they had the meeting about they was going to take karate to Japan and things like this, and some of the older guys went, "What are you doing? We can't do that." And they said, "No, this is future. This is the way we're doing it." And as in revolt of that, like a black armband, they started to wear a black gi instead. So that's what. So I started to work. When I heard this, I thought, "Do you know what? That really makes sense to me." So I said, right. Plus, as well, I do a lot of weapons, and it's good. You don't mark a white gi, but so I started to wear a black gi because I didn't want to be associated with the way karate's been going in the last 10, 20 years, majority-wise, not everybody. So it was kind of like, it's like I'm like in mourning for real karate, if that makes sense, right? So the Koryu Kyudokan way is, I want other people, through how we study, so basically I give them a module, and it's based around our kata and our principles, and then they take that away and merge it with what they already do. I was very, very careful. Not one of the instructors on the instructor's course is going away and opening a door, a Koryu Kyudokan Dojo. They're not. It isn't. The intention isn't for that. The intention is for them to go away and do what they do, but amalgamate how we think and how we train into what they do. Then hopefully they learn other people to open the mind, stamp on the box, set it on fire, kick it out the door, and think about what they want from it. As far as I'm concerned, I'm like a pariah, right? The days of organisations are over. Up the individual.
Karate anarchist.
So
yeah,
it's kind
no,
of like, go on.
I was going to say, I quite like that the fact that you're going out there and you're sort of cutting out like the 90s stuff, the 80s, the 90s, you know, and you're encouraging the instructors on your course to literally take the same way of thinking, and in sort of the best way to describe it, it's like spread a virus. Do you know what I mean? Just like, you know, get everyone out of this line work and doing what they're supposed to be doing. So
I was very, I took my time on choosing who I was going to choose. And they got chosen, and I did what Sensei would do. I just put a little tiny thing, I'm thinking of doing this, what do you think? To see what the response would be. And if I've got an end goal, right, the end goal is when my day is up, this dojo will be passed over to Aaron, right, my Uchideshi. He knows what to do, which way to the direction I want it to go. If I just keep that thought process of being insular in here and only in here, which most people thought we was, then I'm robbing other people, apart from the guys that come on seminars, of it's okay to be what you want to be. So I thought, if I do an instructor's course from various parts of the country, they go with the same mindset. It's kind of like, it works both ways, this, by the way. So mindset breeds mindset. So if I've got a positive mindset of growth, of uncapped growth, not governed by organisation or head instructors or chief instructors or having to make coin, having to do so many seminars, have to do so many courses, all my students have got to be graded under under Master Bob and all this bollocks. If there's no upper people kind of holding you down each time you rise up, you go, oh, no, I'm the boss, right? Feck that, I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in individuals' growth. So that mindset is contagious, exactly like it's like a virus. That mindset is contagious. Unfortunately, in this country, for the last 30, 40 years, the opposite mindset has been the virus. We must do what we're told. We must do this. We must do that. Yeah. I don't want to breed sheep. There's hundreds of them. There's thousands of those. I want to breed. I had a conversation before. They like said, "Well, we don't want to be sheep. We want to be sheepdog." And I'm like, "What? I don't want to be a sheepdog. I want to be the fucking wolf. I'm not. I'm the one that all the sheep fear. You know. I want to develop wolves who go and carve their own way, regardless of what other people think they should be doing. Why would you let someone else who generally you don't meet, you might see them once or twice a year, depict what you do week in, week out in your dojo with your students that pay good money to train, and they're looking at you as a leader or a figurehead, but you're kind of got a thumbprint on your head? Yeah, censorship. That's what this will describe it perfectly. Sensei Koryu used to say, a good sensei needs to have a ladder on his back and not a slide. Do you know what that? Do you understand what that means?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I need my students to climb up and succumb me and get better than me and go forward. The young ones that I've got coming through the dojo now, you know, Aaron's 30 odd. I've got, you know, young V, 25, young Josh, 21. They're the future. Yeah, I'm on it. I know I don't look it, but I'm only 52, right? I've still got a few years. I know. I don't look it.
I think I've got more grey hairs than you have, mate.
What you spot?
I says, I think I've got more grey hairs than you have, mate. You're definitely not looking 52.
So even though I've got quite a few years in front of me, I'm using those to start. I'm kind of like, I want people to think for themselves, and I want that to become contagious. I think that the many, many years of succumbing to governing bodies and things like this who tell you, you know, it's kind of like, I remember, and it still goes on today, you know, people don't come to our seminars because the governing body doesn't want them to. That
Really?
blows my mind. You know, why? You know, somebody once told me on this via message, I'd love to come and train with you, but if my sensei found out, he would go mad because my sensei thinks you're too violent. It's like, well, why do you want to come to me for? Because I want to learn how to be violent. Ta-da! There's your answer. You know, what you should do, if anybody says to you, no, you can't, first thing you do is you go, why? And if that answer is about them, right, then the following words you should have is 2 words. Second word is off. Right? Don't get me wrong. If that person says, I don't think you're ready for it, but when you are, they're genuine, when you're ready, I'll take you myself, then further enough, that's okay. You know, they're looking out for you. But if that no is because they don't want you to learn something better than what they can teach you, their ego is in the mix. Like I said, off. And you go and you come. This dojo is full. Every student in this dojo, apart from Aaron and Andy, have come from other dojos. When they've reached that level where they thought, this is not quite what I want from it. There's more to it. You know, I'm kind of like a refugee camp for karateka, martial artists that have had enough and they want the next step. So I'm like Jesus, really, Anna. I'm like.
Well, you're right there. He was a carpenter.
I know, yeah. It's kind of like when they've been generally it's people who've been disillusioned. Some of them spent 30, 40 years doing other stuff and know they're not getting any better. They haven't been getting any better for 20 plus years. And they come to me, this is not being egotistical, by the way, and they've all said to me, I've learned more in a week than I've learned in 20 years where I've previously been. And that is the Koryu Kyudokan way, a completely open-minded study. And I'm kind of quite unique because my life, the dojo for me and my training is it's not a hobby. It's not something I do. It's my life. What gets in the way of me training is my work, is everyday life. This is what I do. This is me. I do it 24 hours a day, but not for a monetary value. And so people they laugh because, and they think I'm lying sometimes. I don't own a TV. I don't watch TV. When I go home from work, I'll eat, I'll shower. If I'm not coming to the dojo, that night I will study. And I study. Sometimes it can be well into the early hours. Some days it's a couple of hours. But every single day I study, I train, I stretch, I work on my fluidity, I work on my supplements, I work on my activity. I come in the dojo, I whack my makiwara until it's had enough. And then, you know, in that sense, then I never stagnate. So my punching power this year is better than it was last year. My movement is better now at 52 than it was at 32. I can't kick high and stuff like that. Well, I can't kick high and stuff, but you know what I mean? It's not as fast, let's say. But my karate now is probably the best it's ever been in my entire life. Why? Because I never stopped training, I never stopped studying, I never stopped developing. So getting back to James's point of being a virus, that's very contagious. So guess what a side effect is? So if I continually grow, right, have a guess what happens to the students?
The same. They continually grow.
Exactly. So I never stagnate. My students never stagnate. I look at, for example, Veronica. She came to us from another dojo, 25-year-old girl, and I look at her sometimes and I think to myself, she's a 25-year-old little petite Chinese girl in a class of middle-aged men who knock lumps off each other, and she loves it. And she loves it because she's learning to deal with the middle-aged men who she needs to knock lumps off, you know. And when I look at her, she's been with us now nearly a year. And the girl that walked in that girl's gone. That girl's been burned with the box, right? She's now she's becoming a badass. And I always say to them, I've said it to them all. I said, give me 6 months. I'll turn you into a violent badass if needed. And that's what she's doing. Today, it's funny because today I've been trying to learn her how to butt, how to use the head. And she's saying, I can't use my head. I said, yeah, it is. And by the end of it, she's going, boom. She's putting the head into Josh, and he's got lumps everywhere. And, that's exactly what it's all about. So it's about developing. Sometimes I very often say, I'm selfish, right? I'm very, very selfish. And I am really, because it's all about my study, right? So study, train all the time. My students are on that journey with me, right? And they get what I think they need. I generally say they are 2 years behind what I'm studying now. So I'll only teach something when I know it inside and out. I can do it with a conscious thought. When I can do it with a conscious thought, it's ready to be taught. I know I can name you 5 instructors off the top of my head that I know that they watch YouTube in the day for classes of the evening, right? How the feck can you teach what you've just watched? Because they're lazy, right? They've not got what it takes to study and study and study. And again, I know I'm quite unique. The way I've set my life up is quite unique.
You were just talking about that process. You always said, giving you 6 months, you'd be able to bring out that violence in somebody.
So I've been, how long have I been teaching? So I kind of, I think I've had a class about just shy of 30 years, 20 odd years, 30 years, right? And in all that time, I've only ever had 2 people I couldn't train to be violently aggressive. And look, fair play to them. They came to me and said, what you find is you get this kind of questions, so that you'll get, would this hurt someday? Yeah, that's the intention. Would this break someone's neck if I did it properly? Yeah, it would, yeah. Could this kill them? Yeah, well, if need be, you need to be able to do this. Oh, I can't. And so that's, then that's the start of the end with them. Yeah. And fair play to them, at least the other hands can say it's not for me. And to this day, I'm still friends with these people. I can't fall out with them because they can't be violent. Not everyone could be a butcher, for example, because it takes a certain mindset to do it. So you've got to understand that to deal with violence, right, it's kind of Rory Miller puts it perfectly. The only answer for violent people are good men who are more skilled at violence. And that is a very, very, very true saying. You need to be able to, if you get attacked by someone and they're in that predator mindset, if you cannot come out of the prey mindset, of the victim mindset, and become the predator yourself, then you're going to really struggle with real violence. Yeah. And this is why we kind of, so I've done seminars for people, and one of the funny ones, right? So I won't say work because I know who it was. So I was doing a seminar for a group, and they were predominantly short-term group, right? And I saw one of my students, I was demonstrating with Aaron, and one of the students, one of my guys, started laughing. And I thought, was he laughing at nothing to be funny? So when we separated them all up, well, I didn't do it. I said, well, I went over to him. I said, what are you laughing at? He said, I'll tell you later. So on the way home in the car, I said, so what were you laughing at? He said, well, when he was demonstrating that neck break on Aaron, he said, one of the guys turned to another one of the guys, senior martial artists, and turned to each other and went, he's fucking nuts. They think, it's like the violent side to it is so abhorrent to some people that they dismiss it. So when I show them the reality of dealing with violence, it's almost the same abhorrent mindset. It's kind of like, you can't do that. And I know my reputation, I know it. I've heard it many, many times. I'm known as a violent person. I'm known as, I've heard them all, who batters his students up, hits his students, hurts them. No, I do not. Every one of my, and all the seminars, you've been on my seminars, you know what I'm like. I'm real. No one gets hurt. It hurts you, but you don't get injured. At least you go away with a truth in here and not some misguided truths that I tell you I say blah, 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 and you go, well, Sensei said. No. You walk away from a seminar or training at my dojo and you don't imagine, you don't listen to what I've said, I make you do it yourself. So that's the truth of it. But yeah, it's kind of, you've got to, I can put a skill set in anyone. I can learn you to knock someone out within hours. I can learn to deal with it, control the distance, control the dead time, control the dead space, look for the telltale signs, and when it goes off, I'll give you a technique or 2 techniques and knock them out. No problem at all. In hours, I can give you that. But it takes years and years to realise there's a lot more to it than just that. And you need to, your mindset and your skill set need to be on par. When you're talking about dealing with real violence, you need to have every aspect of it. You don't want to end up with a fantastic skill set, and when it first happens, and they call your mother for doing something, and you go, what? And you rabbit in the headlights. No skill set will save your ass. Did you see the post I put on about soft skills?
Yes.
Yeah. So at the end of that, I put on that if you're very good at soft skills, it might get you into trouble a few times. But if it doesn't, you need your hard skills to back you up. If you're good at hard skills but no soft skills, right, at least you'll be able to do something about it. You know, you might not see it coming, you might not do this, but at least you can do something.
Yeah.
In this dojo, and the methodology and the ideology of going forward from here, it's about having a full picture. So you don't get caught rabbit in the headlights. You understand through the correct training. It's like I said to you before, I'm not sending you to war, but if you've got to go to war, you've already done it. It's just, the only difference is you're not in your gi. Not saying that we sometimes train outside of our gi, outside, and do outside training. That's a completely different story. That's a brilliant story, when you put people outside and they're not in the gis and they start trying to drown each other in puddles. Fantastic.
Oh my days! I mean,
it is
I
an
think
interesting perspective. Yeah. Go on, mate.
Yeah, I think whoever said he's nuts, and I think you've just corroborated the story then by saying drown each other in puddles.
But it's real.
Yeah.
It's real.
Yeah, no.
I said
Do
this.
you think then? So old are you?
Go on, pal.
Now go on. Sorry. Now go on, Sensei. I couldn't. He timed out. Then go on. Carry on.
It's kind of like, right. So if you want to learn karate to make friends and get out the house and stuff like, yeah, you can come here, no problem at all. But you're soon going to realise that you're like you're in the deep end, right? The Koryu Kyudokan way is not about making friends. Yes, you make friends, you'll make lifelong friends forever, brothers and sisters here. It's not about having a laugh. Yeah, we have a really good laugh, right? Because we're not lumps off each other. So it's the important part is that there's humour involved in that, so ego doesn't creep in and anger, right? I will not teach you a kata. You'll not learn a kata in this dojo that you can go away and compete with it. If you was to perform one of our katas outside of this dojo with an organisation, you say, this is, for example, we call it Yuchi, Yondan, and they'll go, what the hell is that? That's not Yon. That's not here, Yondan, Pinam, whatever. And no, it's not, because it's specific to this dojo and specific to our needs. So you won't get that here, but what you will get here is the truth. Yeah, like I said before, I'm like Jesus. I tell the truth. I've got my big box and I stand there with my big banner going, come and learn violence. So it's kind of, you will get the truth of what it takes to deal with real habitual acts of non-consensual violence, not how to kick eye, not how to come and get fit, not how to be able to compete, it's nothing like that. But I've had people here and I've said to them, look, this is not what we do, and I send them elsewhere. I don't dismiss them, if they want that, if I can help them, I will. And I send them somewhere else. But if you want to learn to protect yourself on all levels, I don't just mean on a physical level, I mean on a soft skills level, on an awareness level, on everything that's involved in that, in the pre-violent interview, the pre-violent cues, everything that goes along with that, this is what we do in here through the methodology and ideology of karate kata or todi kata or T kata. And that's what I want to push forward with the instructors is that, for example, Steve Knight, who's down at Tyndale, you're not going to get Koryu Kyudokan Black Country, or same with Ian. You're not going to get that. That will never, ever exist. Steve and Ian will do their own thing with their own dojos, but incorporate the mindset from here and the learning methodology. And it's not kind of, I send them away after 2 years, and then, you've got to have me once a month and I'm going to charge you £1,000. No. How much do you think, I don't know if you've spoken, Steve, how much do you think it costs for him to do the instructor's course?
I assume he chips into the pot.
It's at least a 2-year course, at least. It probably realistically be a 3-year course. How much do you think it costs them for 3 years to learn from Jesus for 3 years?
Do they have to bring their own wine?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Nothing.
so
I'm going to say nothing.
it is nothing. I don't charge a penny, right? Because it is an honour for me to be able to have them, to share my way with them, with prolonging the Koryu Kyudokan way. I do not want it to end with me. In here, it will hopefully continue with Aaron. I know it will continue with Aaron. But beyond that, beyond these four walls, I need it to continue. Not for no monetary gain, not for no grades or patting each other on the back. It's nothing like that. It's kind of like, people don't believe me as well about this dojo. Everybody comes in here and says, I've seen loads of comments, it must be amazing for having money. I've not got any money. I've not got nothing. The people that come here, they pay a monthly fee, and every single penny of that monthly fee goes to pay for the lease, to pay for the utility bills and anything else we need. I teach for free. Every seminar that I do, every single penny from that seminar comes back into this dojo and for running it. This dojo, and you've both been here, you know what it's like in this dojo. Yeah. This dojo is the reward. If I took a wage, we couldn't have this. You know, our finances are open to anybody who asks. We are completely transparent. I charge zero for my instruction. Everyone pays to have this dojo, and that includes me. I pay monthly. It works out equal between us all, and every bit of money that comes in goes into that bank, and this is the reward. Same with the instructors program. It's not about making money. It's about spreading, hopefully, the correct word, the open-mindedness of what the Koryu Kyudokan is, beyond me, beyond these four walls, beyond Wigan, beyond the Northwest. That's the idea. So if that goes on, then I'm better than Jesus, because I'll live forever. That's my intention. When I die, right, my name will be spoken for 1,000 years, because I'm the Messiah. And you'll say, he's not the Messiah, he's a naughty boy. I'm naughty boy as well.
Nice little, yeah. Class.
That's it. He'll be writing Romans Go Home on all the walls next.
Yeah. But I tell you, right, try and crucify me. I dare you. I double dare you.
I'd think your other skills would come into play with that, though, because I think you'd start, you know, pulling them up on the carpentry skills for the crucifix. I'd be like, nah, you ain't used a good correct join there, mate.
Yeah, if you need to crucify somebody, them are shit nails. That joining's rubbish.
Yeah.
Wrong wood. So yeah, just to sort of bring things to a bit of a close then. For anybody who's looking to train with yourself, you obviously run seminars, you know, sort of all over the place at the moment. How can they get in touch with you to either arrange a seminar or look at potentially visiting?
Very easy. I mean, the main one is probably through social media, through Facebook, through Instagram. That's the only kind of two that we do. You can email koryukyudokan@gmail.com, or you know, if you Google the dojo, it's kind of all registered through Google and that. You can contact me through there as well. But it's kind of like, I've said this before, in essence, we are a private dojo. That's the way we've gone. Nobody knows we're here. You guys have been, unless you know where this dojo is, you won't find it. You know, so it's by invitation only, but we are open to everyone. Yes, we're a private dojo, but we are open to all. The Koryu Kyudokan way is open to all. Just ask. You know, people say, I've had it before, I'd love to have you for a seminar, but we can't afford you. I don't get where that comes from. I know people charge extortionate fees. I don't. Charge what you want. We split it 50-50. Your dojo makes money. Our dojo makes some money. We all study together and we all grow. It's a win-win for everybody. You don't have to find extortionate amounts of money for us to come. And generally, it's not just me who comes after the dojo comes. We just love it. We just go everywhere. Like the Koryu Kyudokan massive, you know. Peter comes, Paul comes, John comes, and all my disciples.
That's it. After this goes live, we're going to end up with a bunch of acolytes just wandering around Wigan looking for you.
You won't find us. You know, it's the people that own the Arch, called the Arch Company, that used to be Network Rail. They have a magazine, and when we had an inspection recently, and they took some pictures. When they walked in, they was like, "What? Nobody knows it exists." So she said, "Can we put it in the magazine?" I said, "Yeah, put it in the magazine, no problem." The amount of people from the Arch Company who've then since contacted me and said, "I can't believe that's there." They come down here all the time because they never come in, obviously, because we're closed during the day because we're all at work. Nobody can believe that this is here because you won't know. There's no sign on the main road telling you we're here. You've got to be invited to come. And have we got time?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got all the time, yeah.
Right, so quick story, right? So when Sensei was alive, so I got summoned one day, like I very often got summoned. You know the story about me and Evander Holyfield, don't you? Yeah, right. So that was one of the summons, right? So, and he said to me, "I had a dream last night about your dojo." Now at the time, I was sharing a dojo with someone else. I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, you won't be there forever." And he said, "I have I've had this dream, and your dojo is you park at the bottom, you walk up the hill, nobody knows where your dojo is." And when you walk in, it's like the best dojos in Japan, in Okinawa, and in you know, and you don't even know it's there. It's very traditional. And this is his words. And he said, "There won't be no fucking t-shirts for sale. You won't be selling gis with 50% markup on. You'll walk in, you'll bow, you'll get chained, and you'll be up against it." And I'm like, God, I hadn't even seen this dojo then. And when I found this dojo and you parked at the bottom and you walked up the hill to come in and nobody knows it's there, it was like, you know, goosebumps, isn't it? And it kind of foresaw what we was going to do, that we're not a commercial dojo whatsoever.
Well, I can definitely attest to that. Obviously, James, you've been there as well. It is an amazing,
fantastic
space. And the small view that we've got there, you know, it's not even a fraction of seeing the whole space. It is really, really unique.
Yeah, I think I was quite taken back when I went in there. It was like stepping into the Bat Cave. I think that's the best way to. It is. It's like the Bat Cave.
Cool. Well, we will bring this interview to a close now because we have all just sort of been listening more than anything else.
Yeah,
I am murder. You know what I'm like for talking.
Yeah, absolutely.
No.
But it is all good stuff. Sensei Steve, again, thanks for your time. We really appreciate taking the time to sort of chat to us and that. Hopefully we'll see you again before long. I think what events have you got coming up? Just for anybody that may be interested.
Well, I'm down at Steve Knight's dojo, Stephen Leslie's dojo on the 10th of June. We've got a Three Amigos in Derby on, I think that's
at the end of June, isn't it? That because I think I've got to miss that one because it's the weekend that the martial arts festival's on.
Yeah. So we've got that. I've got quite a few over the year. I'm actually later on in the year. I'm down in Cornwall actually as well, which is the first. I've never been that way.
Nice.
Whenabouts?
This what?
I said whenabouts. I'll go on holiday down there quite regularly. My nan lives there.
It's in September. That.
Ooh, I don't know if I've got any time spare in September.
What we'll do, any seminars we see, we'll post them up across our pages and that, and hopefully you get to see a few more new faces. All
Thank
right.
you ever so
Well,
much for your
again,
time.
thank you again, and yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure, and hopefully we'll do a bit more with you in future.
Okay, thank you very much.
No.